Yo, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Selena here. If you're new, welcome. Today's video, I'm here collabing with the wonderful Selena from introducing her new channel.
What's the Health Hybrid.
Yay! So she has a new channel, y'all. Y'all probably remember her old one, which is the Selling Manual. But she now has launched a new channel, which is exciting. So this video kind of correlates with her new channel. So in this video, we are going to be discussing mental health, and probably mostly we're going to stick to the HABESHA community, just because we kind of understand and kind of live through it day to day. So yeah, we're just going to have a conversation about mental health, and if you're willing to learn about it, or if you're willing to just chime in the comment section below about your experiences and stuff like that, join us. This is a little conversation, y'all. So let's start, shall we? So Selena, she actually has a lot of expertise behind this because of her schooling and whatnot. So kind of let them know about who you are, what you went to school for, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. So great introduction. So I've been studying mental health and addictions, and also previously have an undergraduate degree in health studies. So health interdisciplinary, should I say, where it focuses on a variety of areas, whether it's social, biological, whether it's political, sort of all the factors that impact health and the various ways that it can be utilized to educate people and also educate ourselves.
That's awesome. So what has been, I wouldn't say your experiences, but what do you think in our community we should improve on in terms of how the people approach mental health?
Yeah, so I think the first thing, I think we're also in the very early stages of discussing it. So the very first thing is to make it even acceptable to talk about in the first place. So I know sort of from my own personal experiences, from listening to other people speak about it, it isn't often spoken about or recognized as something that needs to be taken care of. You need to take care of your mental health, and that mental health issues actually do exist. They're not imagined instances. They're not necessarily cries for attention, even though they can be for greater issues. And it's just a lot more complex than what meets the eye. And when it comes in particular to the Eritrean community, there is a lot of sort of intergenerational trauma that stems from surviving war, for example, or even crossing the borders, and as we've seen in the recent years, the refugee crisis that a lot of people have been talking about. So it's pretty evident that mental health does need to be discussed at a much greater length, and needs to be recognized. And we are in the very early stages of that. So generationally speaking, it's sort of the younger people who are bringing eyes to this topic, but honestly, it should be spoken about on all levels of society.
For sure. Yeah. I totally agree with what you're mentioning with intergenerational, you know, our parents and our grandparents who were going through the war and even leaving because of the war, or even fighting in the war, right? That alone is, you know, that can cause PTSD and whatnot. But then the younger generation is also going through it, like you said. The refugee crisis is another huge factor as well. And, you know, especially in our community, we need to have conversation, but we also need to kind of listen as well, and listen to other people's experiences and kind of learn from that. Because I feel like a lot of the older generation, they feel like, you know, I don't want to bash on the older generation, but it's true. Like they don't see it as these people could be suffering mentally. Like they just think, oh, hamimom, or oh, you know, they're just sick and da da da. But it's more to that than just being sick and just, you know, suffering, because mentally they're not there. They're suffering, you know. So having conversation and, you know, seeking help and having help available for them, I think would be definitely beneficial. But I totally agree that it's just coming from generation to generation and generation, and it needs to stop. Really, it needs to stop. Like it's very devastating, for sure. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, for sure. So how do you think we should kind of approach the not generational, but like, you know, because there are some people who don't really see that mental health is there as well. How do you think we should approach any generation in terms of mental health?
Yeah, so I think obviously one of the basic tenets of this is speaking in the languages or the cultural ways that things are communicated, and keeping that in mind. So when you're speaking to an elderly family member, you're not going to be speaking to them in the same manner you'd speak to a child or somebody who grew up in the West. So there is definitely a way to communicate that information. For example, what I do or what I've been doing is I would correlate it to cultural experiences that they recognize as normal. So not to make it just this Western concept where they're trying to brainwash us or remove us from the culture, but that it also exists within our own. So for example, let's say you know somebody who survived the war or something, and they have potentially some symptoms of, let's say, PTSD, right? So I can't diagnose, or nobody can diagnose somebody based on hearsay. So what you would do is maybe use that person or that experience as an example, or even your own experiences, and say, this is how I feel, this is how it relates to what happened in the past or my current experiences, and this is what it most likely is, especially if you've accessed a mental health professional or have knowledge yourself. So it's really about the sharing of information at this point, and like you were saying earlier as well, access to these services. So in order to access services, they have to be made available. But how are they going to be made available if no one even recognizes these are issues in the first place?
That's it. Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest problems I say back home as well, speaking to some of my cousins there. They're like, oh my God, you studied mental health, that's so cool. I wish they spoke about it more. And the younger generation definitely does acknowledge that mental health is a concern there. But they just don't have the tools or sort of the background to apply it to wider society or even themselves. While we're here talking about it and making it more and more acceptable, which is great. So we have definitely, or are in a very different place societally here. Let's use Canada as an example versus there, because yes, they're using a different system to keep themselves accountable. Usually it's religion or like a community of elders that sort of tell you how things should be run, how you should behave, how you should feel, in fact, and you sort of follow that protocol. But it would be great if there was a sit-down situation or even wider community events to a degree where we actually address it head-on, and not make it, oh, this person just needs to go outside more, or, oh, they're special, they want attention, or the possession piece, which, happens quite a bit, right? It's the way it takes away from the conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And, you know, I like people back home, they, like you were saying, they don't have that access, or they're stuck in that older generational mindset of what their parents have been teaching them and their grandparents or whatever, and they don't really see the actual truth of what is actually going on. They just, like you're saying, oh, you know, oh, they're just trying to change us, and oh, they're just trying to do this. But it like, and I'm pretty sure in a lot of families, a lot of people have mental health issues. And a lot of families, especially Eritrean families alone, I can't even imagine how many people are going through that right now. So we have to listen and have conversations with one another, because, you know, if we don't know, how are we going to try and fix things, right? It's having those conversations and being open to listening and conversing with those people and just listening to their experiences as well. You know, like, you may not have to totally understand per se, but if you're actually opening your ears to somebody who just wants to talk to you, I think that's a better start than completely ignoring mental health in general, right? So yeah, I totally agree. So what do you think about like actually our first steps to introducing that back home? Like, what do you think would be the first steps? Because I know maybe funding could be an issue, but if there was all the money in the world, what do you think?
That's actually a really good question. So I think primarily it would have to be a very slow process, right? It's not something you can just walk in and, okay, we got the resources and build sort of a psych ward and expect people to respect it or even understand it. So it's going to be predominantly the educational component. I think that would be key. So putting it or implementing it in schools. For obvious reasons currently, in terms of the situation back home, it is hard to spread information that isn't accepted, should I say, whether it's politically speaking or even socially speaking. There's a bit of a disconnect there.
For sure.
But potentially or hopefully in the future there is a means whereby we can carry that information in there and let's say, professionals within the Western Hemisphere. There's a lot of people who go on holiday, who go on visits, who are curious, who do want to help, actually putting that knowledge to use, right? Helping and educating others so they themselves can train themselves as well, right? Giving the tools, as opposed to, what's the saying that says, instead of giving you a fish, teaching you how to fish in the first place so you can survive, right? So really giving them the utensils to do that. So education would be the primary point. So at least you know, right? Exactly. So communication and education would be the key takeaways.
Oh, for sure. That's a very good first step, you know. At least having something there would be kind of nice, but, you know, political stuff and all that kind of stuff gets in the way. But hopefully we get in a better space of being able to do that back home. And, you know, I pray for everybody who's going through everything back home right now, and just in general. And, you know, we hear all the people back home that want to be heard but can't, unfortunately. But, you know, people who actually kind of understand what is going on and the truth of what is going on. We hear you. We're right behind you. You know, we stand for the people. And, yeah, like you said, just having people go in there, people go for holidays and stuff like that, just having those conversations would be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
100%. And even just from conversations I've had with those who still live there, there's also, just in the same way we have a disconnect to people who are a little older than us, or like the boomer generation that's sort of turned into a meme in recent years, but we have a disconnect here. But even then, for them, you know, in comparison to the information they used to be exposed to for centuries, in recent years, they've also been exposed to Western concepts and ideas. So they themselves are trying to process this new information within a very, very old and traditional culture, and that still takes place to a certain degree today, and also simultaneously trying to teach and even speak about it to the older generation. So there is conversations that they do want to have and are willing to have. So it's just really about accessing those tools to have it in the first place. That seems to be the biggest barrier.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. But it's a good step that we're actually, you know, understanding and hearing and, you know, being willing to listen. So, but yeah, I think that's an awesome first start for our little conversation on mental health, y'all. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it. That's kind of fun. Just listening, you know, and conversing. So if you guys have any questions or any concerns, or even just want to have a conversation, comment down below. Let's all have a conversation about this, because this is a serious topic. And everybody needs to learn and understand as well. So if you guys have any questions for the lovely Selena, head over to her channel, because she does do a lot of these kinds of videos. Well, mostly like Western United stuff, but she does go into topic about mental health. So if you guys have any questions for her, she's a good expert, that's for sure. Go subscribe to her, y'all. Comment down below in her you know, comment sections in her videos if you have any questions or comments or concerns. Head over to her channel. I'm going to link it up here so you guys can see it. And thank you, Selena, for joining me. We should do this again if people are interested. I think it's a great way to open up the conversation about mental health in our community, and, you know. 100%.
And I'll definitely love to, actually, thank you for having me first and foremost, but also would love to come and try Somali desserts on another day.
Yes.
Great day.
I haven't even done that yet, but yes, y'all, that's gonna be coming soon. Hopefully soon it's coming. Yes.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for watching this video. If you really enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And like I said before, comment down below if you guys want to have a conversation or just anything in general. Comment, let us know, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!